Hey guys, Rogues Guild here. We're just doing a meta-analysis and breakdown with the recent ban lists that occurred. Time Distortion and Spirit Stone getting banned. Pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah, so with Distortion getting banned, that kind of shut a lot of decks down from being able to do much, because they would get to about turn 4, maybe turn 5, and then TSW would just start locking them out, and that would make it so the decks really just couldn't do much. And so with that ban, we're gonna see we should see several other decks popping into the meta. I know we've talked about a couple different decks, like Keurig had a lot of problem with that. And,
Nobody knows about Keurig.
No,
that's a bad deck from what I hear.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people say that, but no, like decks like that, and maybe slower decks like Lucifer might be able to bounce back with this, because now instead of getting to the starting to get to the mid game and then getting locked out, maybe they can go to the more mid to longer games and be able to win more matches because Distortion is banned.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Our previous format mainly consisted of TSW and what could actually react to our Time Distortion, being Hanzo, Chimimi, Gil. That was kind of how the format really started off with. And then, of course, the aggro decks that could actually achieve their win con before the stasis actually started occurring. That was pretty much the only thing that existed in the previous format. Without Distortion, we suddenly have to start considering everything again. One other big thing that we have to start considering is actually value in decks, and whether decks can suddenly grind again, since games don't end on turn 4. And that's something with the Spirit Stone ban that Hanzo and Chimimi are really going to struggle with going forward. I know you you were a big fan of Hanzo, Will, and so you were pretty disappointed to see that. But
well, so to be fair, I like all green decks. But so the thing is that with like Hanzo and Chimimi, you're playing, or at least Chimimi more ways. You're playing like the Fairy, you're playing Viola, you're playing Pygmy Hippo. You're trying to get these value resonators. And then, because you're playing so many 1 to 2 will cards, your hand empties so fast, you need a way to draw. And Spirit Stone, basically, unless your opponent had some way to exile your yard or counter it, you just gotta draw 3 cards off of nothing, and then you'll have your stones back, and you can use your stones later to sack the stones to draw even more cards. So without that draw card engine, I feel Chimimi's probably gonna get it really hurt. I don't necessarily know about Hanzo. I think there's still a chance, because Hanzo does play a lot of things at quick cast, so he has kind of a lot of options. But with Spirit Stone being banned, that hurts. I feel that hurts green a lot, because you just don't get that draw card engine that we've had for a while.
I agree. They were really able to capitalize on just cheap cards, like you said, playing a bunch of 1-drops and 2-drops. And since they had all the value in Meditation and Spirit Stone, they didn't care about that. But now they're at a point where, oh my gosh, like Lucifer's a thing, Brunhild's a thing. They're playing 5-drops. How many 1-drop and 2-drop cards am I going to have to actually play to contest that? I mean, it's cool that Hanzo actually has Table Flip, though. That is probably the biggest thing keeping Hanzo alive, that he can still contest with things that are 800 in stats over his bodies, and his bodies still live. Outside of that, though, he's definitely going to struggle. Meditation is still a good card, I think. At that point, it basically just becomes a 2-cost 4C. I pay 2 will, I draw 2 cards. So it's just what blue has for 3 divinity. However, I think Yokai Festival suddenly comes into contention for that rune spot with Meditation. It's going to kind of bounce back and forth between those two, which is more valuable. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I think there's a couple of different runes that could come into contention there. Because like in Hanzo, you play the white one that lets you gain 800 life or draw a card. So now you're looking at maybe 2 or 3 runes that might come into play with taking out Meditation.
Yeah.
I don't really know how necessary it will be to play Meditation. That's kind of weird for me, because Meditation was all about the draw cards and getting something out of your graveyard, but without being able to really draw that many cards, like, I don't know how useful that's going to be anymore, because we've got, if you want to grab things out of your graveyard, we do have Ruin Story, so that might be more effective.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I can't really tell on that card right now.
Yeah. Personally, I think the curve of green decks for Hanzo and Chimimi is really going to change to where it's not going to be so heavy populated with the early cost cards, and we're going to start seeing more 3-cost and 4-cost cards in there. And I don't really know how that's going to shift the deck. I don't know if the deck is going to be able to keep up with the big bombs that Lucifer and Brunhild have always had access to, but they've just been withheld from competing, and now suddenly that they're accessible, I think it's going to be almost like a culture shock to Hanzo and Chimimi, where there are going to be people playing the deck, and they're going to be good players, and they're going to come up with a good list, but it's just not, they're not going to be prepared for all the answers. I don't think people are going to have thoroughly tested out everything that all these decks have access to, because just everyone in the community is rushing to test so many different things.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by the number of options we finally have, and I think this is probably going to be one of the healthiest formats we've ever had for Force of Will.
Yeah, it looks like it'll be healthy. Whether it is or not determined at the next, hopefully at the next GP.
Yeah.
But I do know that, like, I kind of look at Lucifer a little bit because Lucifer does all the discard, and the main thing that kind of hurt Lucifer was the fact that Chimimi and Hanzo could just draw the cards, right? Draw more cards out of their deck than they're able to make you discard, and so you don't have the draw card engine. I think Lucifer kind of gets a lot better. We'll have to see where he goes, but like Black does have a decent, like, it has a good amount of removal. The removal's not great, but like with Black, it's kind of easy to put in Speaking Stones. So I'm seeing maybe Green-Black Lucifer kind of really get back into the meta. If
that'd be cool.
Especially with Distortion Game Band and Stone Game Band, I think that deck actually gets tons better.
I agree. So then, kind of moving from old format to the new format, basically, what are we looking at potentially for this new format to be? What are kind of some of the big names that we're probably going to be looking at to dominate that first event?
So obviously, I think Black Green Lucifer, obviously, but the biggest one in my opinion is AU. So with the reason for that is, one, AU had about a 50-50 matchup spread against TSW, and with losing Distortion, AU gets a lot better because it doesn't have to worry about that. But with losing Speaking Stone, AU can try to outgrind the green decks. It's not going to happen much. Or it shouldn't happen much.
AU control.
But it should be able to like outgrind a little bit from the green decks.
Yeah.
Because you're not being able to, the green decks can't draw the cards that well. I'm also seeing kind of a format where we might start slipping out of green a little bit, because Spirit Stone was really nice for the draw cards and everything. And with taking that out, I think Chimimi's kind of dead in the water. I don't think Chimimi's going to be able to have the draw card capability. Like, you can draw off the fairy, but then you're losing a Resonator to draw a card, and I feel like that's really bad. Mm-hmm. So if that goes away, and it depends on really how Hanzo goes and Gil, but if green kind of slips, then I feel like AU gets even better, because AU won't have to worry as much about that many more Lorites, that many Scarlet's Agonies, you know. It's because without green, it is super hard to beat AU. Like, that deck is ridiculous facing against non-green decks.
I agree. Usually at the beginning of a format, aggro always comes out hitting the ground running. Specifically in this case, AU being the aggressive deck that it is, I think is going to have great results. Green being nerfed so hard, or at least the competent green decks being nerfed so hard, really allows AU to succeed. However, a lot of people have also overlooked, in my opinion, the success that White potentially has against AU. It's not as guaranteed as Green has, with Lorite, with Ferris Spell, with Scarlet's Agony. Unfortunately, White doesn't have those tools, but it does come pretty close with Separation of Fates. It has Isolate, just to prevent damage for 2 will, so it's a semi-Amaterasu's Foresight just against one target, which is all you need. And then you've also got Aura of Hope to just rest the J-Ruler. So I think White could actually see quite a bit of success in this format, which is surprising.
Yeah, it definitely can. We have to kind of see where it goes, because White also has the rune that you can gain it. And against AU, that's actually really kind of big, because 800 more life to gain before AU smacks you. Like, that's what, like 2 more souls they have to have in their hand or something like that. That also helps their math a lot.
I think that's called, was it Whispers of an Angel? Whisper of an Angel?
Yeah, I think it's Whispers of an Angel.
Yeah. So yeah, I like that card a lot. I think Brunhild in particular has the life gain to be able to actually thrive in an aggressive early meta. So I think Brunhild is also going to hit the ground running because of that. She's got the value, she's got the big late game drops, but at the same time she's able to stunt aggro with all of her removal, with the life gain, and just the large bodies being able to block. Personally, I'm looking at AU. I think Kirik is going to do really well now that Time Distortion is gone. His major competition is out of the way, and he can play how he wants to play. He doesn't have to play Shooting Stars in the main board. He doesn't have to play Ray in the main board, though that may actually still stay. I don't know. But he's not required to do certain things like that. He's not required to open double Majin Dark Elf with a PO opening and be like, okay, this is the only way I win.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that, to where they can kind of spread out and they've got things. But then I also think to compete with that, we're going to see Brunhild with her getting her Master Rune and all the tools we've already gone over. I think she's going to thrive. I think Lucifer, if he gets lucky and doesn't see AU all day, personally, I believe Lucifer is probably the best deck this format, as long as he doesn't play against AU. But so, I haven't tested the Kirik matchup too much with him, with his new Master Rune and everything. But.
So yeah, Lucifer goes into more later game. But like what I was saying, if we can actually tune up Black Green Lucifer, you get to play Speaking Stones, and you can either side or main Lorites. And so like you'd probably main the Lorites, but then in game 2 you get a sideboard in Agonies, and when you play against IU. I think actually you might have a decent shot at getting there, because granted it's not going to be easy, because yeah, you are a later game deck, but you get to make them like discard cards, you're doing all this other stuff, and when they attack you, like Lorite the thing, and you agony them, and I think it's doable, but it's not easiest, but I think it can be good.
So the problem I have with splitting colors on Lucifer is a lot of your black cards are double black, but then in order to handle things like IU and Kirik, you really need that green early. So you want to play a solid amount of green to consistently see it, but then you're not going to consistently get double black early, and then most of your black cards are just going to be offline. So. Yeah,
but I think most of the double black cards, though, are like 3 or more will. And so with them being, even the 2, well, the 2 will ones would be weird, but like the 3 will or more, you should, in theory, like if you play like, I don't know, 3 Speaking Stone and 7 Black Stone, you should be able to get 2 Black Will by turn 3.
Why not Spirit Stone?
Theoretically. I don't know, Joey. I don't know. Maybe Force of Will keeps touching the green cards and I get salty about that.
It's okay, man. I lost Mikage, you lose green.
No, I've lost so many cards. Rest in peace, Otherworld Dreams.
But yeah, so I see a lot of things moving forward. I see the format getting healthy. So where do you see Hanzo and Chimimi specifically in this next format? I see them as like a tier 2 position, learning that, oh my gosh, I've got to play value cards. I've actually got to curve out and not just play a bunch of 1-drops that I can refill with. I think they'll still have a place, but they're definitely going to have issues. I think specifically Hanzo is going to have a place because of table flip. Chimimi's probably going to be dropped down to like a tier 3.
Yeah, so I think Chimimi, I do agree with what you said. I think it would drop down to, at the very most, a tier 2. But I think it will go down further, just because Chimimi really doesn't play value resonators. It might turn into it, but at that point, like if you're gonna play like three more will resonators, your opponent's just gonna take care of the resonators and you're gonna die. Like, because you just don't have the will up for Ferris. It's gonna be hard to get the will for Ferris spell and everything. Hanzo, with everything being quick cast with what you play in at the moment, I think is very suitable for the format because of like table flip and whatnot. But I don't think that one's dead. I do think Chimimi's kind of dead in the water. I could be 100% wrong on that, but I do like how Hanzo kind of works though. So I have a little bit of hope for him.
Yeah. I agree with that, unless, Ryan Miles pilots it, then just whatever, doesn't matter how bad the deck is.
I mean, yeah, whatever deck he runs, I guess, is just, that just beats everything.
It's good. But yeah, so opinion on machines. A lot of people are fans of that. I don't know how I feel about it quite yet.
So my biggest problem with machines is Lorite, because it does have certain things where they don't want you to Lorite it. But I don't really know. I know, at least in the machines I like to play, I play Distortion in it just to kind of try to get me an extra turn.
So,
but
I think we can all admit that tapping Guinevere and getting rid of 12 counters for that behemoth of a resonator that you never want to draw is a bad idea. So at least we don't have to worry about that getting lore-righted. I think the only important effect that gets lore-righted is just Lancelot's second effect to board wipe.
Yeah, I think Lancelot's second effect kind of hurts, and then Arthur's flip should be lore-righted, because I've had it before where it kind of goes off and it's not fun. Because that can get a lot of counters, and it's not fun to deal with that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think machines could be viable. I don't know a whole. At least in my machines list, I played Distortion, so I think that kind of hurts it. But at the same time, I don't really know how that deck will really pan out that well.
True. So. But it's also cool because you can kind of play a few different rulers with it. There's obviously Arthur machines with his new Master Rune. I'm not really sure how much that benefits the deck, considering it's so gung-ho and all in your face with all the aggro tools it has, with all the 1-drops and pumping them up to mean something. I personally feel that the Master Rune just completely contradicts the theme of the deck, which is infuriating in my mind, but a lot of people seem to still enjoy the new Master Rune.
Yeah, so it contradicts machines a little bit, and so that I don't really know if that Master Rune will be played in Arthur machines. I kind of liked his old one a little bit, but again, I haven't, with green being so prevalent in this game, I haven't touched a whole lot of blue.
Yeah.
But it will be, especially if green kind of peters out even a little, it'll be kind of nice to look at like blue and see kind of how machines go, because like in Wanderer, I love machines, but in New Valhalla, I haven't just been able to do it.
Yeah. I personally prefer Loki machines, just being able to play the aggressive tools that you have early on, and then when you need to grind, you can just flip and then drop Fenrir, draw 2 cards, kill a Resonator, develop a 10/10 body. So to me, that solves the issue of grinding for machines, but a lot of people still like Arthur instead for the additional +1/1 counters to fuel Lancelot, to fuel Vivienne, to fuel Guinevere. Yeah, if you want to go for Guinevere. But, yeah, so I personally don't like that so much, but, I mean, it's there. And then there's also the really techie Shayla machines that one of our team members has tried out.
Oh my gosh.
Patrick Okrens has been trying Shayla machines for a while. It's pretty cool. 8 path reparts, you know, get in there with that aggro, so it's cool.
God, Path Repart's such a good card. I wish we had it in more colors.
I wish it was a battle art.
Nope.
But yeah, so that pretty much solves the big hitters in the format, or at least as far as we can tell. There's a couple other things that our team is still personally testing for really spicy lists that we think could actually mean something, but we're unsure of at the moment. There are 2 other things that the community has always had a passion for, ever since their release, but have never actually performed well yet. One being Isis, the other being Imel. How do you feel about Isis in particular at the moment?
So for some reason I've never been able to beat Isis. I've faced Patrick against multiple times on Isis. For some reason I just can't do it. I don't know what it is. But
skill, man.
Still salty about that. But no, Isis. I think it could be in a decent spot. I know when Isis flips, that's a powerhouse on its own. But again, with not having green, I think Isis has a very problematic time against AU. If AU does shape out to get a lot of help because of these bannings, which I think it does, then I think Isis still is in a pretty bad spot. I don't see that deck really performing all too well. And also, like if Lucifer comes in and is doing the discard stuff, Isis just doesn't have a way to draw cards to get back into having a hand.
Yeah.
So I don't think Isis is in a great spot. Imel could be actually pretty nice, because Imel is just a continuous flipping engine to get resonators. There is a problem where if you separate Imel and kill her, she loses a perishable and she doesn't come back.
Yeah.
But
they also do play 4 Flourishing Hope, so
yeah,
that
like
helps.
they play 4 Flourishing Hopes, and you can also play like I think it's Wednesday Gold where you can give your IMO barrier,
Yeah.
which is really nice. So like I think IMO could be in a pretty nice spot. We gotta see how that would pan out, because you got to think, if you're gonna play IMO, why would you play that instead of Brunhild?
Yeah.
Because Brunhild's also white and does a lot of the same things that IMO does, except for it has runes.
Yeah, I agree. They both heal relatively around the same amount in a competitive game, not in a casual game. They both, like, IMO flipping generates resources. Brunhild says, I start out with 5 extra resources. Brunhild flips for 4. Yeah, sure, you know, IMO flips for cheaper, but IMO doesn't really represent a body on board until later in the game anyway. So they wind up relatively coming out to the same thing. The thing I'm interested in is IMO has always been able to abuse inverse resonators. And now that green is in a worse position, Speaking Stone is going to be less played because of that. We'll start seeing other colors in here. Without Speaking Stone, decks won't be as readily won't have as much access to black tiers in that case. So I could see an inverse AMO actually doing something for once, but I'm still unsure.
So that's kind of true, but you gotta think. So Spirit Stone goes away. Every green deck's still gonna play Speaking Stone. Every deck's gonna still play Speaking Stone in green. Black, if they do that, is not a bad idea, but black also already has access to it.
Yeah.
You're basically gonna be looking at the green decks and the black decks that are gonna hurt you in inverse, and I think those are gonna be the more prevalent decks. Red's not gonna be able to deal with, or red can deal with it too, because red has the null stone that can give back. So
True.
I think we're still gonna see this around the same amount of black tiers, because of just a readily access of black in most decks. But I do think AMO could be cool. I just don't think the inverse part is what you would have to look at when it comes to AMO.
True. There are a couple non-inverse builds that are still relevant. Obviously, IMO's able to abuse inverse unlike any other ruler, and so when you look at non-inverse builds, again, why aren't you playing Brunhild? So,
yeah, like I don't think Isis will really get up there. But
I don't think so either. I think so. She can't interact with IU. She loses out to Kyric's aggro. Whether people want to believe that or not, she does. I would argue Brunhild would win that matchup as well, and she's going to be widely represented. I think Isis for sure dominates the green matchups against Hanzo and Chimimi at the moment. TSW is in a position to where Isis can actually handle that matchup now. So I think she has a better spread than she did before, but it's just not enough to actually be viable.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Isis can really get there much, just because I don't think she's gonna be able to interact that well with the top tier decks.
Yeah.
IMO could, but again, just play Brunhild, and I think you'll get a lot more value out of that.
Yeah, Brunhild seems to be the go-to deck at the moment. So
yeah, if you're playing white, you might as well play Brunhild.
Yeah, I think we're going to be in a meta where beat IU, beat Brunhild, and that's pretty much what everyone needs to kind of design their decks around. And,
yeah, like I don't know how prevalent Brunhild will really be, but
yeah,
I definitely know that most decks should at the least be trying to make sure they can beat IU, because if you can't, IU's going to clap you.
Yeah.
So.
Before we close out, though, one last deck that nobody ever seems to really play, Gil. So, oh yeah, there is another green deck.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've mentioned it once or twice in this video.
Yeah.
No, but Gil's nice. My main problem is with Gil, he is the hardest deck in the game to play.
Yeah.
And he is very slow. So
and very punishing if you mess up.
It's very punishing if you mess up, and you have about 5 to 8 lines of play every turn. So, and also with losing Spirit Stone, you're not getting the draw cards that half the time you could just do. So I think Gil does get hurt by it. But with just being as slow as he is, and being the hardest deck in the format, and already not seeing much representation in the last format, I don't think he's going to see much of this format unless people are just continuously grinding him out, and then if they think that they can top him with the GP, like if you know how to play him and you know how to play him fast enough to where you feel comfortable winning on game 3 sometimes, or if you think you can win game 1 all the time, then do it. But I just don't think there's going to be many people who will feel that comfortable on kill.
I agree. I think time is his biggest issue. If we actually had like 60-minute rounds, I think he'd be a lot more viable.
Mm-hmm. But to all the American players who like to play Kirik,
we don't have to worry about time. What's time?
Yeah, you know, just finish your rounds in 15 minutes and go grab a soda.
Yeah, or pizza. You know, just whatever, man. Go get drunk. Doesn't matter. Yeah, so we got a tier list here for you guys, just kind of explaining what Rogues Guild really expects the format to shape up to be. IU, Kirik, Brunhild obviously in the dominating position, Brunhild with its new tools and not having to worry about distortion, Kirik and IU just being able to run free and rampant with their aggro tools and not being so worried about green always being present or distortion keeping them off their pacing. And then we've got in the tier 1.5 position, we've got Hanzo and TSW. Those two, we really don't know exactly where to place them quite yet because they're still quite potent, especially with Hanzo getting the new table flip and still having access to a decent rune and what meditation is. And we'll just see him kind of flexing off on some of the other runes that he could have used instead, such as Yokai Festival. While TSW still has alternative routes that she can go even with a machine list, which I think is really potent for her. She still has the diversity list, however that kind of seems susceptible to Messenger and Brunhild, where Messenger can just banish itself off and pop an addition. So I don't think that list is going to thrive too well, but machines seem to work really well with her at the moment. In the tier 2 slot, we got generic machines, like if you're using like Shayla, Loki, or Arthur as your ruler. We got Lucifer over there just because of his pretty sketchy matchups versus Kirik and IU in particular, and there may actually be some decks out there that can outgrind them. Then we got Gil, as always, ever present. You just got to be good with the deck, and it requires quite a bit of skill. And just the amount of time that it takes, you got to be good, you got to be fast. I think she could actually sneak up into a higher position, but just seems like an inferior Brunhild at that point. And then the tier 3 slot, we got the miscellaneous decks that we feel will still be something to kind of look at, but won't necessarily be performing well. We got Chimimi, Isis, Farah, Rhea, Tigris, Freyla, even Gil Alamat. I'm excited to see where all these decks can kind of go. Thanks for listening, guys. Just wanted to kind of talk about the bit of a meta discussion, go over some of our thoughts, what Rogues Guild is thinking moving forward. We have a lot more coming out. Unfortunately, we've been a little bit on break with New Year's and Christmas resolving for everybody. Everyone's gotten back from vacation, so expect to see a lot of content in the future. Thanks for watching and hope to see you again.
Bye.